Federal government bans teaching in indigenous languages, declares English-only policy in Nigerian schools. This was the news that I saw yesterday, being, I believe, the 13th of November 2025. And this is going to be my social commentary to it. It might be a long video. If you're not interested, just swipe up. But if you're interested in the future of the country, then let's talk. To start with, by now, if you know, I have 2 Instagram accounts. One is for social commentary like this, reviews, gaming, and the like. That is just where I'm, in my zone. And I have another one that is for education. It's actually a platform where I teach about web development, CMS web development precisely, and other IT related topics and technologies in Pidgin English. And if you've heard me make those videos on YouTube, you see me really emphasizing the need for support, because teaching in Pidgin English is not as easy as speaking Pidgin English. When you have to break down technicalities and engineering terminologies and terminologies of sort in Pidgin English, it becomes really, really challenging. And now here is the news in front of us. It's so scary that it seems that we found ourselves in a country where foresight might not be our thing. Prior to this, sometime in the past, the federal government also banned history in Nigerian schools. Do you have an idea of what it means that history is banned in a country, a sovereign country that actually has an independence, and somehow history was banned? They had an independence, which meant that they had a very significant historical event that happened in their development as a country or to a country. There were presence or arrival of colonizers who did a lot of things. And over time, the country as a people decided that they wanted to now become a sovereign nation on their own. They wanted to become their own bosses, as the case may be. And they did so many things and they left. The colonizers left. And the history that carries all this information is now banned in the country. How do you want? And this is the reason why the young generation, not even the young generation, even the present adult generation, talking of people within the age range of 30 to 40, 45 years old, if not 50, if you are not mistaken. No, let's keep 50. Let's leave it at 40, 45. They lack good knowledge of the history of the country, knowing where they came from, how they have thrived, and where they are going to. It is so scary. I remember when I had the opportunity of leaving the country, engaging with a lot of foreigners, and they're asking you questions like, so where was Nigeria during the First World War? What was Nigeria doing during the Second World War and the likes? And I was lost. I had no response. The only thing I could say is, sometime around then, I knew that we're under the colony of the British. And that was all. They were the ones actually using their knowledge of history, of world history. I'm not talking of even their own history, of world history, to actually try to figure out where Nigeria was and how they played, what role they played, and what role Africa played in these significant times in history. And our own country decided to ban history at a certain point in time. I think recently it has been revived into the curriculum. And now in 2025, we have this breaking news. It's actually breaking news. Now, let us analyze the information as seen. And this is coming from Instablog Naija, so you can go there to see the post itself. And they said the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, announced the new directive, which is the ban of teaching in indigenous languages in Nigeria, on Wednesday at a Language in Education International Conference 2025 organized by the British Council in Nigeria, in Abuja. It was a 2-day conference themed at language, education, and inclusion, empowering every learner. And it was brought by policymakers, educators, and experts across Africa, South Asia, and the United Kingdom to discuss strategies for improving learning outcomes through language. Dr. Alausa explained that while preserving Nigerians' local languages remain important for cultural identity, English offers a more effective and global competitive medium for learning. I believe this is the quotation which he said. He said, the English language should be used to teach our students at all levels as a means of instruction. He said, over the years, the use of mother tongue in school has contributed to poor performance in national examination. The national policy on language has therefore been cancelled. He described English as a unifying tool for Nigeria's diverse population, noting that research shows students taught primarily in English perform better in exams like WAEC, NECO, and JAMB. According to him, the decision marks a shift from emotional attachment to local language identity towards evidence-based education policy. Meanwhile, the British Council reaffirms its support in inclusive and equitable learning across the sub-Saharan Africa. So Julian Parry, Director of English Programs for the region, said language can serve as a bridge to inclusion, identity, and opportunity. Okay, see the way I'm itching my head. We need to break all of this down. So, my second platform, which is dedicated to teaching web development and IT technologies, as the case may be, in Pidgin English, which is the most understandable form of English language in Nigeria, is aimed at making sure that knowledge of such cuts across every form of literacy level, because most people understand Pidgin more than English. That said, I also just made an app which I call Taxsense Naija, and I think the name might be changed any moment from now because I'm actually in the process of getting a domain name which is not Taxsense, so it will actually involve me changing the whole name. But for now, it's Taxsense Naija. And what is it all about? It's just a civic tax on myself to make sure that the whole taxing and taxation and taxes and 2026 reforms as signed by the federal government is understood by every person in all or most Nigerian languages. For now, the knowledge is available in Pidgin, in English, in Hausa, in Igbo, and in Yoruba languages. Now, what is the implication of all of this from the news? It simply means we are going to get more lost than found. I'll break it down. Yes, he said that there have been recent analysis that shows that students that were taught primarily in English language perform better. Definitely they would. I don't even know how to make you understand this. They certainly would. However, does that mean that because of a poor performance by people that were taught in indigenous languages, we now have to run away from teaching in indigenous languages? Certainly no. There is no way. I told somebody recently that even if you change the complexion of your skin, you change your name to an English name, it doesn't remove your mother tongue. And that is why, no matter how much you have resided in a country, outside your country, you certainly would sound like a Nigerian when you speak their language or their dialect. You can't run away from it. It's your mother tongue, is who you are. The Russians, it's the same thing. They will speak English, but you will definitely hear the Russian accent coming out when they speak. So what is the problem? It is you notice a success rate in English language training, and you notice a what they call it, a pop of performance with those that studied other languages. Was this really? I don't want to. Let's not even explore that. But is that a reason now why you now have to ban the use of teaching teaching things that determines the furtherment of the civilization of the country in indigenous languages. Is that the reason why we will not ban it? Because there was poor performance. Are we going to be looking at performance in WAEC and NECO? Are we still based on WAEC, NECO, and other forms of national exams as the reasons to why? Is that our measurement of success? We still believe that it is when you get 3 A's and 5 B's and all of that that you're really successful. That is just you being able to, return what you have been taught. Doesn't mean you have good knowledge of whatever it is. And I remember people, when I was much younger, I was taught Yoruba in my primary school. It was a topic on its own or a subject on its own, as well as Hausa. We didn't learn Igbo. If I had learned Igbo, I might be very interestingly good in Igbo to an extent, but we're taught Yoruba and Hausa. And we're taught Yoruba and Hausa like we're taught English language. We're taught the alphabet, the vowels, the consonants, the verbs, and all of that. And I think we learned it in the first stages of primary school, and we lost it by the time we got to secondary school. I think we're done. We didn't explore that again. They rather brought French. Okay, they brought French to us, and we did French till I think junior secondary school. Then that was when we dropped French also. My point is, this is who we are, and we are now being removed from who we are. I just raised an observation that history was banned at a point, so deleted from the curriculum. Now, I'm not sure they teach indigenous languages in the curriculum, and now it is being banned to even teach. I remember during my NYC days, I was teaching somewhere in Vandekia, and I was teaching computer to youngsters, in primary 5, primary 4, primary 6, thereabout. I probably taught the whole primary classes, but this was around primary 4, primary 5, or primary 6. And I was trying my best to teach them in English language what a computer was and all that stuff. But to be honest, they were not grabbing it. And I could see in their faces that they were not grabbing it. It was more of yapping than them actually grabbing anything. So what did I do? I actually brought someone out that understood English well enough, and I understood English well enough as well as the TIV language, right? And I brought this young guy out, this is a pupil, and I started explaining, computer in the concepts of what they could understand. And his job was to translate it in TIV language so that they could have a very good knowledge of what I was talking about. And I can remember vividly what I was teaching. I was teaching the concept of data collection and how data moves and become information. Okay, so I told the guy that I was using an example because TIV, they love pounded yam. They love pounded yam. So I told him, I said, consider data as yam. And when you collect this yam, you actually now, that is data. It's raw. It just comes from the farm, and then that is what it is, right? And now you push it through memory process and processing units, and they now come out as different forms of information, right? And I told him that this process could involve either frying, making fried yams, boiling, making boiled yams, porridge, making porridge, and also pounded yam. And these are different processes through which ordinary yam is now processed and now comes out as information. And they really understood this thing. They got the concept. The concept was passed, not because I said it in English language, but because I had somebody that understood both the English and the indigenous TIV language, and was able to tell them what I was saying, but now in a much, much layman, broken, form that they could easily grab the context. And now it is being banned. I'm not saying we should just transition into teaching in basic or teaching in indigenous languages and all, but I think we should seal it in that indigenous languages in Nigeria, that is the major indigenous languages in Nigeria, should be mandatorily taught in schools in Nigeria, from primary down to university, rather than teaching French. And I thought I saw recently something about Mandarin being signed into, I think, an MOU or something of that sort, that it is now going to be taught in Nigerian schools. Mandarin, French has been taught, like consecutively taught, and our indigenous languages have been, disregarded and neglected. Now, if you teach, we have platforms. We have platforms like Maso Igbo. We have Kemisiri Yoruba. We have I don't forget this guy's name, but I'll put his name there. Arojinle. We have Arojinle. We have Washiri. They are out there teaching and bringing back the knowledge of these indigenous languages enough so that it doesn't get lost, so that it doesn't die, so that it can help in better understanding science, because it is residual in us. We just need something to kickstart it. I mean, in Russia, they actually teach physics. I've forgotten what they call physics in Russia, but they teach physics in Russian language. They teach chemistry in Russian language. They teach mathematics in Russian language. They teach social studies. They teach psychology, philosophy. It's all in Russian language. Nobody comes and teach you, oh, chemistry is this, oh, this is that. No, it is in Russian language. Na ruskom yaziki. Ani uchitsia na ruskom yaziki. Uchiatsu, how do you call it? Chitayotsia na ruskom yaziki. Is that champ? Let me even speak Russian. That champ se chas. Мы сказали нет. Мы сказали нет. Не учить на родные языки. Я не понимаю. I don't understand. Why? Why do we do this? Teach these languages to the students from when they are born, when they access their primary schools, down to their secondary schools, down to their universities. By the point they get to universities, they will be so grounded, the same way they understand how to read, write, and comprehend English language. They will be able to comprehend so much that they can now be used to go back and teach sciences, and teach economics, and teach philosophy, psychology, and all that stuff, all the whole academic whatever we are doing. We can now start teaching it back in our own indigenous languages, because I promise you it is more understandable then. I was speaking to people, I said, just imagine the architecture, the security architecture of Nigeria in 5 to 6 indigenous languages. Do you understand the importance or the advantages of being a multilingual country? Like, almost, we have more than 2,000 dialects in Nigeria. Imagine building a security architecture using that. Do you really think, do you know how long it will take you before you can break or hack such kind of security architecture? I'm an English speaker with a little bit of knowledge in certain languages. What do you think I can go and hack bypass a security software that is built on Mandarin, that is built on which other language that doesn't use the Latin the Latin style of language? Mandarin, let's say Hindu, or the Indian or Sanskrit. How do you want me? Or Arabic? How do you want me to go and hack something that is built on Arabic architecture? Arabic language architecture. It will take me, if not possible, all my life, because I have to learn Arabic enough to do this. And imagine you building this multi-language. Tiv, Yoruba, what they call it, Igbo, Fulani, Fufude, Hausa, what they call it, the Calabar languages, just name it. Let's say you use 100 to build a security software. Do you really think it's going to be something that somebody can just put into a translator and they just translate everything? I really don't understand how we get to this point. It is so scary. A lot of people are putting in their efforts to make sure that we are going back to our roots, to our culture. We need to learn this. We need to use it as a means of education, of educating the next generation, so that they can have very good knowledge, very good, advantage. But no, it is not it. And the title of this whole, what they call a conference, is Language, Education and Inclusion. How does this even now translate to the ban? How does it? How do you want to use English to go and teach someone in the far north of Taraba, in the far north of Adamawa, or the far north of Castina and the likes, or in the extremes of the west or the south, as the case may be? It's almost bringing tears to my eye at this point. Like, it's almost bringing tears to my eye. I was out there and somebody looked at me and asked me, my lecturer looked at me and asked me, in what language do you think? I looked at her stunned and I said, what sort of a question is that? I think in English language. And she said, well, she thinks in Russian language. And I was like, I had to pause to run myself through that response. And it started making sense, because we are more expressive in our core form, which is our mother tongue, in our source language. And you get to, at a point sometimes you find it hard to express yourself so well, because you're limited to the dictums or the dictionary availability of words and sentences that you can construct. But in your own core, you're dynamic. For a language like Yoruba is so dynamic, it's so rich. Now people say I'm emotional. It's not about emotion, it's about knowledge and understanding. We lose a lot of information because of translated words. I hope we know what we are doing. This is how I'm ending it. I really hope we know what we are doing.